Welcome to Session 2 for new internal facilitators. This session will provide a refresher on the needs assessment for the district or community school and provide a framework for the beginning steps in developing a district or community school action plan. Our objectives for today. We'll discuss the collaborative structures at the district or community school level, specifically the stakeholders and the roles of the DLT. We'll review the concept of identifying critical needs and root cause analysis, and provide a framework for the elements to be continued in the action plan.
In our previous session, we talked about the importance of establishing and aligning core beliefs in supporting implementation. We also briefly mentioned the importance of selecting the members of your DLT. Before we continue with next steps, let's take a more in-depth look at the DLT, as the DLT will play a critical role as you begin to move forward with your work in school improvement.
As you remember, in our last internal facilitator session, we talked briefly about the district leadership team. As your district or community school is beginning or continuing this work, it is imperative to think strategically about choosing the members of your DLT. The composition and size of your team matters. Choosing the right people and the optimal number to make decisions in a timely manner will help to make this process more collaborative. Establishing the DLT is imperative. The district leadership team, or DLT, draws from all levels of the organization and may include some, but not necessarily all, of the following: superintendent, treasurer, school board representatives, school administrators, teachers, including specialized personnel such as intervention specialists or teachers working with gifted students, central office administrators, family and community members, union representatives, school counselors, and community partners. Remember, the composition and size of your team matters. Choosing the right people and the optimal number to make decisions in a timely manner will help to make this process more streamlined to move the work forward.
As you are considering the makeup of your DLT roster, let's take a closer look at the roles these members will be asked to fulfill. These roles include reviewing district data, developing the district's improvement plan, including goals and strategies, ensuring the provision of professional development and other supports, monitoring the implementation and effectiveness of evidence-based strategies, and communicating the improvement work of the district to all stakeholders. Let's begin by following up on our previous session and reviewing the key components of identifying critical needs, which was step 1 in the Ohio improvement process. What are some items to consider when analyzing performance data and other contributing factors? First, decide what data should be gathered to analyze. You may want to use a protocol to examine and interpret your data. An example that you might want to consider would be the Atlas Looking at Data protocol. This protocol can be accessed at www.schoolreforminitiative.org under Protocols and Resources. Report card data, as well as other contributing factors such as benchmark data, adult implementation data, environment data, community data, etc., may be information that your team would like to dig into when going through this process. Your district or community school may have specific adult data that is a contributing factor, such as teacher attendance, experience, and turnover that could impact student learning. Consider the data that is most relevant to your district or community school. Your team should engage in a root cause analysis where you will begin to problem solve and participate in discussion by uncovering the deepest root. An example of this might be utilizing the 5 Whys protocol, and then identifying the causes rather than the symptoms. This will require the right type of environment to foster open and honest discussion. When first beginning this work in root cause analysis, some districts choose to list each root cause on a separate Post-it note, which allows them to sort and categorize with ease. As you examine these root causes, your team may begin to see trends, patterns, and similarities. As a consideration, it will be important to verify your root causes using multiple data sources. From this point, your team should see themes, which will allow you to narrow it down into actionable items, which can then be addressed as a district.
You're probably thinking that we've identified our critical needs, but now, what do we need to consider? Let's talk about your next step at the district and community school level. Creating the action plan is the next step for your district or community school. As your team successfully creates an action plan, the following components need to be addressed: goals, evidence-based strategies and action steps, which include both adult implementation indicators and student performance indicators. Some items to consider as you develop your plan are your timeline, the academic focus, which could also include such areas as improving literacy, improving performance of identifying subgroups, or improving overall graduation rate. A climate focus, such as behavior, attendance, or reducing chronic absenteeism. The key is to focus on a limited number of goals. Under each goal, you will identify your evidence-based strategy or strategies and the action steps needed to reach your goal. As a reminder, your action plan should include a limited number of goals, as too many goals will inhibit your district or community school's ability to fully implement and monitor the progress in your identified areas. Remember, your district or community school's goals should be written as SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
After your district or community school team has identified your goal, you will then need to determine the evidence-based strategy or strategies that will move your district or community school forward in meeting your goals. Items to consider may include identifying current or new evidence-based district-level strategies that increase student achievement while minimizing achievement gaps between student groups, using a research clearinghouse, and selecting a strategy based on an appropriate level of evidence as defined by ESSA and its core components, time commitments, funding, and implementation expectations. Here are a few questions to consider as you are determining your evidence-based strategy. Which clearinghouse provides us with the information required to address our identified need? How is the evidence-based strategy aligned to identified needs, specifically students, subgroups, grade levels, and/or content areas? What ESSA level does it meet? How does the evidence-based strategy align with the current mission, vision, and core beliefs of the district or community school? Is it sustainable? Will the required implementation time work? What implementation resources are needed? And what is the district capacity to implement? Now that your district or community school has identified a goal or goals and a strategy or strategies, the next phase is to generate action steps to achieve the goal. An action step refers to the specific efforts that are made to reach the goals the team has set. Action steps are the exact details of your action plan. They should be concrete and comprehensive, specifically stating what will be done to reach the goal. A key question to keep in mind is how will these steps be monitored? As you develop your adult implementation indicators, here are some considerations. Are we implementing with fidelity? Do all stakeholders know what they should be doing? Another consideration, how are we training new staff? And how are we following up to monitor the implementation? Does everyone understand the expectations? How will we monitor for implementation and impact? What adult data needs to be collected, and how will that data be collected? How often? What is the process and what will success look like? Remember, if adult practices are not changing, the student performance data will not change. After you've determined your adult implementation indicators, it's time to look at student performance. When your district or community school is looking at student performance, here are some considerations. What is the current level of performance? And how are we monitoring student performance? Things to think about include what student data needs to be collected, how will the data be collected, what will success look like, and are our subgroups making improvements?
Prior to beginning monitoring, here are some questions to consider. What actions, strategies, initiatives, programs, or interventions are we using to impact each category? What improvements in the curriculum and the instructional model are evident? What evidence is there that the vision is implemented and articulated across the grade levels, as well as the feeder schools? What evidence is there that the SMART goals are making a difference? What evidence of ongoing professional development exists? And what evidence is there of collaborative planning amongst teachers in which they support each other in the pursuit of quality improvement at all levels?
Let's take some time to think about the next steps for your district or community school. In the first session, we discussed the importance of ensuring that the district or community school has a clear vision, mission, and core beliefs established. Your next step is to begin to work on the district or community school action plan. As a reminder, the key components of the action plan include developing a limited number of SMART goals, selecting evidence-based strategies to address the goal or goals, and the action steps required in relation to adult implementation as well as student performance. Thank you for listening, and please remember, all information is subject to change per the Ohio Department of Education updates.